Hey everyone, and welcome to this Masterclass Explainer. Today, we're taking an incredible journey into the microscopic, complex, and honestly, utterly fascinating world of eukaryotic cells. Think of this as the ultimate tour of the microscopic machinery that literally makes you, you. We're going to look at the blueprints of life, unpack some billion-year-old biological mysteries, and see how the very structure of our cells dictates exactly how we live, breathe, and function. Get ready, because the architecture of life is absolutely mind-blowing.
Here's the roadmap for today's explainer. We'll start off with form follows function, then push into the cell's outer limits and head straight for the command center. After that, we'll check on energy and maintenance, draw the battle lines in animal versus plant cells, and finally, we'll wrap up with a wild twist, the endosymbiosis theory. Let's get right into it.
All right, Section 1, Form follows function. This is the core architectural philosophy of biology.
You know how a skyscraper is built with giant elevator banks to move thousands of people quickly? Or how a hospital is designed around an easily accessible emergency room? The layout is purposefully built for the specific activities happening inside. Well, our natural world ruthlessly utilizes that exact same principle. Form follows function. Now, unlike simpler prokaryotic cells like your basic bacteria, eukaryotic cells have a totally sophisticated architecture. In fact, eukaryotic literally means true nucleus. They've got this membrane-bound nucleus holding rod-shaped linear chromosomes, plus a whole bunch of other specialized compartments. They're basically built from the ground up to handle incredibly complex tasks. And that brings us to a super important word, organelle. It literally translates to little organ. Just like your body has organs like the heart and lungs to handle specific jobs, eukaryotic cells have organelles. By boxing up different functions into separate microscopic areas, the eukaryotic cell operates just like a highly efficient, perfectly tuned factory.
Moving on to Section 2, the cell's outer limits, the plasma membrane and cytoplasm.
So let's start our tour right at the factory gates. Every single eukaryotic cell is wrapped in a plasma membrane. Think of it as the cell's ultimate security guard. It's a phospholipid bilayer, which is really just a fancy way of saying it has two layers of fat molecules packed with proteins, and it strictly controls what goes in and out. Water, oxygen, ions, nutrients, they get a pass. Waste, like carbon dioxide, kicked out. Once you step past that security guard, you're standing in the cytoplasm. That's the whole region between the membrane and the nucleus. It's filled with this gel-like stuff called cytosol. Now, it's actually 70 to 80% water, but it feels kind of semi-solid, almost jello-like, because it is absolutely packed with dissolved proteins, sugars, and amino acids. That's where all the metabolic magic actually happens.
Now let's apply that form follows function rule to human health. Take the cells lining your small intestine. They specialize in absorption, so their plasma membrane folds into these tiny, finger-like projections called microvilli. This massively increases their surface area to grab nutrients. But look at celiac disease's domino effect. When someone with celiac eats gluten, their immune system freaks out and flattens or damages those microvilli. The form gets destroyed, so the function completely fails. The person can no longer absorb nutrients properly, which leads to severe cramping, malnutrition, and diarrhea. It's a pretty profound reminder of how microscopic architecture dictates our macro-level health.
Okay, Section 3, the command center. Let's talk about the nucleus and ribosomes.
Let's head deeper into the cell now, right into the boss's office. The nucleus is usually the biggest, most obvious organelle in the cell. It houses your DNA and acts as the ultimate director. Most of the time, the DNA in there is wrapped around proteins, in this unwound, messy jumble of threads we call chromatin. It actually only condenses into those recognizable, tightly packed linear chromosomes right before the cell divides. Oh, and tucked inside the nucleus is a dark spot called the nucleolus. Think of it as a little subfactory whose only job is to just churn out ribosomal RNA. So, how do we get from a blueprint in the boss's office to a physical product? It's a literal chain of command. Step 1. The DNA in the nucleus transcribes its instructions into a temporary copy, which we call messenger RNA, or mRNA. Step 2. That mRNA slips out of the nucleus through these special doors called nuclear pores. Step 3. It travels out to the ribosomes. These are tiny granular organelles that are either floating around in the cytoplasm or stuck to membranes. The ribosomes read that mRNA code. And finally, Step 4. Based on that exact code, they piece together amino acids to build specific, functional proteins. And jumping back to form and function for a second, cells that need to pump out huge amounts of enzymes, like the cells in your pancreas, they are absolutely stuffed to the brim with millions of ribosomes to handle the load.
Next up is Section 4, Energy and Maintenance. Time to look at mitochondria, peroxisomes, and waste.
All right, so we've got the instructions and the protein products, but factories don't run without electricity or a cleanup crew, right? Enter the mitochondria. These are the double membrane powerhouses of the cell. Through a process called cellular respiration, they take the chemical energy from the food you eat, mix it with the oxygen you breathe, and pump out ATP, adenosine triphosphate. ATP is basically the cell's short-term energy currency. To put that into perspective, when you sprint, your muscle cells suddenly require massive amounts of ATP to keep you moving. If your heart and lungs can't deliver oxygen fast enough down to the mitochondria in your legs, ATP production stalls. Your cells panic and have to resort to making energy without oxygen, which creates a byproduct called lactic acid. And yep, that is exactly the burn you feel when you're working out hard. And of course, keeping the cell clean and organized is the maintenance crew. First, we have peroxisomes. They're these small, round organelles that break down fatty acids and detoxify poisons. For example, the peroxisomes in your liver cells are the literal heroes that safely break down alcohol. They manage this by cleverly locking dangerous chemical reactions that actually produce damaging hydrogen peroxide, safely inside their own membrane, totally away from the rest of the cell. Pretty smart, right? We also have vesicles and vacuoles. Think of them as the cell's Tupperware and shipping containers. Vesicles move things around and confuse with other membranes, while vacuoles are much larger and strictly meant for storage.
Moving on to Section 5, Animal versus Plant Cells, the Great Divide.
Up until now, we've been talking about organelles that mostly apply to all eukaryotic life. But here's where we hit a major fork in the evolutionary road. Animal cells and plant cells share the basics, but their environments demand completely different structures. Animal cells have a centrosome to help organize microtubules, and they have lysosomes. Lysosomes are the true garbage disposals of the animal cell. They use a highly acidic pocket full of enzymes to digest waste and chew up worn-out organelles. Plant cells? They don't have those. Instead, since plants can't just run away or hunt for food, they evolved totally different survival mechanisms. They have a tough, rigid cell wall made of cellulose for armor, chloroplasts to literally make their own food from sunlight, and a massive central vacuole.
Let's ground this in everyday life for a second. Ever wonder why biting into a raw stick of celery gives you that loud, satisfying crunch? You are literally hearing the acoustic sound of your teeth shattering millions of rigid cellulose cell walls. Meanwhile, the chloroplasts in those plant cells are pulling off a daily miracle, grabbing carbon dioxide from the air and water from the soil and using sunlight to forge glucose. And that huge central vacuole, it acts like a water balloon regulating pressure. If you forget to water your houseplant, the water drains out of that central vacuole, it shrinks, and it can't support the cell wall anymore. That loss of internal pressure is exactly what causes your plant to visibly wilt.
Finally, we arrive at Section 6, the endosymbiosis theory, the evolutionary twist.
All right, for the grand finale of our explainer, we're diving into a billion-year-old scientific mystery hiding right inside your very own cells. I want you to genuinely think about this for a second. Why do mitochondria and chloroplasts have their own separate circular DNA and their own ribosomes? They are completely distinct from the cell's main command center in the nucleus. It's an incredible anomaly. They operate almost entirely independently of the boss. Why on earth would that be?
Well, the answer lies in the endosymbiotic theory. Scientists realize that mitochondria and chloroplasts are exactly the same size as free-living bacteria. Because they carry their own DNA, the widely accepted conclusion is staggering. Billions of years ago, a larger host cell swallowed up ancient independent bacteria, first one that could process oxygen, and later on, one that could photosynthesize. But here's the twist. Instead of digesting them, a mutually beneficial relationship formed. The host gave them a safe home, and the ingested bacteria basically paid rent by churning out massive amounts of ATP energy and sugars. Fast forward over millions of years of evolution, and those independent bacteria became permanently integrated, specializing into the organelles we literally rely on today to stay alive.
Which leaves us with one final, mind-bending thought to wrap up our explainer today. Are we really just walking, talking ecosystems made entirely of ancient symbiotic bacteria that just decided to work together? Next time you look in the mirror, remember that the powerhouses beating your heart and firing the neurons in your brain are the descendants of tiny billion-year-old microbes. Biology isn't just a boring list of parts. It's a dynamic architectural history of survival. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and I really hope this deeper look at eukaryotic cells has fundamentally changed the way you view the life buzzing in